So this is the last electrical accessory that I plan on installing to this machine in the foreseeable future. Got the switch plate still taken apart here. I'm gonna punch out one of these knockout inserts and install the switch right here. I'm gonna run the wiring through there and come up underneath the dash inside here. So here's the switch. This guy's on the top and that one's on the bottom. So I just use a little bit of tape and put a T on there, and hopefully I can figure out the other one, right? There we go. So I got that one and that one. So there's the winch, there's the light bar. All right, so now I'm gonna feed these wires here. Time for the fun part. Oh, isn't it fun feeding stuff through where you can't reach it? That worked out. Snapped right in there into place, just the way it's supposed to. So I'm going to do something unorthodox. Normally I am not a fan of things like this, but because of Honda and their BS instructions, the different harness plugs are not working out. So I'm gonna show you guys what I'm gonna do right now. Right here is the harness that came with the light bar, and this is what I'm working on right now, is trying to figure out the wiring for the light bar, and I think I got it figured out. So this is the harness that came with the light bar, and then this is the power control that came with the sub harness, and I have 5 of these. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this off and cut this off, and then I'm going to install these guys right here on both sides of each wire and give it a trial run. So before I did anything, I double checked and made sure that I had the power coming where it needs to be coming from. So I'm gonna start this machine up. And you can see that I do have a good power connection here. I mean, these don't fit. No matter which way you try to slice it, they don't fit. There might be a adapter or something, but I asked them when I bought the light bar, is there anything else that I would need? And they said no. And I mean, I've looked over and over, and maybe you guys know something I don't, and I'm happy to hear it if you do, but I'm gonna go ahead and put these together and I'm gonna test it out. I'm gonna plug the light bar into the wiring harness. That plug does fit on the back side of this harness here to the light bar, so it's just the power source that I'm having issues with. So I'm gonna give it a try and see what happens. I'll make sure that when I do cut this off, I give myself a little bit of slack here in case I ever want to reconnect it for any reason. But let me get to cutting here. All right, so it's actually not all right. I shouldn't have to do this stuff, but no going back now. There it goes, mofo. All right. Okay, that should give me plenty of room to work with there. I already have these ones in hand. I was planning on using these, so you know, it's gonna be plug and play. Obviously there's a male and a female end on each one of these plugs. I'll go ahead and put the male end right here. I'm not suggesting that everybody should do this. I'm sure there's probably a better way, but I am so frustrated and I want to have this machine put back together, and so, you know, I hate to even consider the idea of sacrificing quality for production. But after everything that I've been through with Honda and the switch plate and the expense of their product, that's a good connection. That's a good connection. Okay, so now I'm gonna snip this guy off here. I have 4 more of them, so I'm not gonna be so concerned about giving myself room to play here if I ever wanna install this again. I think this is more than enough if I ever need to install something and this connection doesn't work out. Now these are obviously a lighter gauge wire, but whether you're using a plug or not, you're still going from heavier gauge wire to a lighter gauge wire. Doesn't matter. And that's another thing that Honda, you know, why didn't you have the same gauge wiring? But that looks like a pretty clean cut right there. Do the same thing with the negative here. Then I'm gonna install that light bar, or I'm gonna plug it in, and I'm gonna flip this switch and it's gonna work. I'm just looking for something positive here. This is gonna work. And it's gonna work forever. All right, got the positive to the positive, the negative to the negative. But I'm gonna start it up. Look at that. So I know that the light bar works now. And my next project is gonna be getting all this wiring tucked in and put away. So yeah, I'm gonna start by getting all this wiring in place. I think I'll probably put the light bar over here. I wanna make sure that all the wiring reaches. So this is the one wire that I'm not gonna zip tie up for the time being, but everything else, I feel like I can kind of zip tie it up, get it all secured, and make sure it's gonna be in a good spot. I'm gonna go ahead and put a zip tie as close to the back of that console as I can. And then I will also put another zip tie in the front right here once I get everything put in place. And you know, with all these connections, hopefully, I know it's probably not necessary. I'm sure it's overboard, but you know, I'd rather go overboard, right? So whatever, if you don't like it, don't do it. This is where it would be nice to have 3 hands again. What would you do with the 3rd hand when you weren't using it though, right? That'd be weird. I'm hoping that by doing this, it's gonna take any type of pressure away from all of these electrical connections that I made just by locking everything together. All right, so in other words, if it's pulling on one wire, it's pulling on all of them. And there's definitely strength in numbers. Go ahead and trim off the excess of the zip tie. Oh, shit, my finger, no, I'm kidding. What y'all think? That's pretty clean right there. Pretty clean. My poor wife has to deal with me and I guess my obsessive compulsive behavior. But you know what? She'd probably be a lot more pissed off if we were out in the middle of nowhere and this thing broke down. So we can deal with it. All right, I'll do one more on the front here. Make sure everything fits in there okay. And it sure does for the time being. All the wiring over here I installed to this main harness right there, but again, I left the inline fuse accessible. And even when this panel is in place right here, I should be able to access that fairly easy. And also that's gonna keep all of this wiring in place. Don't want this stuff wobbling around or anything. And I think that that's gonna be good. So this is all put back together, super clean. I know it's good, which is a good feeling, right? I got the windshield, the roof, the front panel, and the wiring reinstalled. I have the harness for the light bar in here somewhere. Oh, there it is, right there. I'm gonna route the wiring from the light bar to that plug there. Right on the inside, I already double checked and made sure that everything is gonna work. I can fit the harness coming from the light bar through here. I double checked that, so I know that's all gonna work. So I installed, kind of put everything together just to see how it was gonna go. Make sure that everything is legit. This is what these look like. All right, so I have these bolts, or I should say this bolt. It is about 2 inches long. Like even on the instructions, they show these bolts being not threaded all the way up. They show them being just like that right there. But the bolt doesn't look like that. Imagine that. I'm not surprised. That's okay. It's okay because I have all the hardware that I need. I just have to be creative. And this is the one that I just removed from this piece right there. So you can see that. And then I had a washer and then a locking washer and then the nut. So that's what sandwiches this all together. And then there is a couple of Allen wrench bolts. These appear to require locking washers as well. It's got this circular bracket there, and then it's got a couple of these Allen wrench bolts that go into those two holes there, and seems like there's supposed to be the locking washers on this as well. Now, before I get too carried away here, this bracket right here is going to be mounted onto the roof, and then these are going to be underneath and they're going to attach to this bar right here. They say 13.5 inches from the center of this to the inner portion of this bracket is what they're calling for. And I'll go ahead and follow that as closely as I can. All right, so I'm gonna go just like this right here. Bam, bam, and then bam. I'm gonna take some measurements and drill some holes through the roof. I'm gonna install this first bracket and show you what it looks like. I got the bracket in the spot where I'm actually gonna drill the hole. It's about 13.5 inches from the center of this bolt here to the inner portion of this bracket. I went ahead and grabbed a probe. I'm gonna use that to make a mark. And that's gonna be where I'm gonna drill the hole. Once I have the hole drilled, I'm gonna be able to put a bolt through there and that's gonna tie everything in place. So I'm gonna do it right here and then I'm gonna do it on the other side. But once you drill it, there's no going back, right? All right, one hole drilled. All right, so that bracket's facing forward. I'm gonna install the spacer. And then the upper circular bracket. And then the lower circular bracket. Isn't this fun? It should be. And if we're not having fun, we need to figure out how to. All right, got the bolt fed through. I'm gonna install the washer and the locking washer and the bolt. Yeah, and the nut. It's been a long day, what can I say? All right, so I'm using a 10 millimeter and a 13 millimeter and a couple of ratchet wrenches. I don't want to tighten it down too much. Now I have a couple of Allen wrench bolts that have locking washers as well. And I'm gonna install those right now. This is a number 5 Allen wrench and a bolt with a locking washer on it. Go ahead and get them both put in place before I tighten this down all the way. Just like that. All right, so this is what it looks like. Gotta straighten it up a little bit. Make sure it's square. That feels pretty damn solid to me. Now that I have the back bolt in place and all the different brackets, I'm gonna go ahead and drill the front hole. I feel like this is square, super square to the front. And one good thing that Honda did do was make the brackets on the actual light bar self-adjustable. So even if this is not perfectly square, hopefully I'll have a little bit of room to play. So now I have the 1-inch bolt right here, and I'm gonna feed this down into the lower bracket using a 10mm socket. After I get this one in place, I can go ahead and tighten everything down. I don't wanna over tighten it. That's not going anywhere ever. Man, I sure hope I don't end up needing to take this apart for some reason, because that would be a pain in the ass. Oh my gosh, I love it when a plan comes together. All right, light bar. The bolts came in 2 different bags. These are like 1.5-inch bolts here. And here there's 2-inch bolts. Looks like with a smaller Allen wrench, I can loosen this and adjust them outside and then also in and out too. Or width-wise and then in and out. It looks like there's a variety of bolts that I could use here. And I think I'm gonna go with the 1.5-inch bolts. Here I have a couple 1.5-inch bolts, a couple locking washers, a couple regular washers, and a couple of nuts. All right, and this is gonna be number 3 Allen wrench. It's gonna adjust that. So the interesting part of that is gonna be, I need to make sure that they are placed in the right position, and then I'll tighten them down with the Allen wrench because I'm not gonna be able to do that once it's installed, because obviously there's no way to fit anything like that once it's on the roof, right? I will start by loosening these Allen wrench bolts here. Don't want to loosen them too much. That could get me in trouble. So I'm gonna retrofit this, make sure it's dead center. Because I know that everything else is true and square, I feel like I can go ahead and push these all the way forward, and then I just have to worry about making sure everything is centered. Of course, I want to make sure that it's angled in the right direction as well. I think that looks pretty good. That should work out just fine right there. Tighten this one down. What y'all think? Should I pull the sticker off now? All right, so I have the 2-inch bolt. I'm gonna do a washer, a locking washer, a nut, that's pretty solid. Last but not least, that looks pretty clean. You can see a little bit of wire right there, and then zip ties. If you're paying attention, you can see the wiring coming through here. but I haven't even plugged that in yet. I'm about to do that now. All right, so in advance I had zip tied the hell out of everything over there, and then I left the wire right here, and then I just fed that one through. And now I'm about to snap it in. Before I zip tie this, I'm gonna fire it up and watch it work. What do you guys think? Pretty badass.